Hello and welcome to From the Be All End. This is the debrief for Burnley 0, Preston North End 0. And we will see you on Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your week. Up the Clarets. Not quite that short, but not a lot to talk about. Or maybe there is lots to talk about, but certainly in terms of match action, not very much. I'm Andrew Greaves, got Justin Connolly, Paul Woodhouse and Chris Borden alongside me. Let's come to you first, Woody, because I'm sure you'll have put yourself through another 90 minutes of that on your big Megatron TV, doing your best Gary Neville impression.
Yeah, absolutely not.
No. Riveting stuff again, weren't it?
I mean, that was horrible, wasn't it? I mean, it really was. I mean, there's genuinely nothing to pull out from that, other than I think a special mention has to go to the ref. I mean, I don't tend to like to call out refs for ruining games because you don't see it too often these days, do you? But he completely destroyed that and totally lost control, especially partway through the second half. This idea of trying to Roger Milford his way through it and let the game flow just blew up in his face, didn't it? And it just seemed to completely ruin it as a spectacle. And it seems to have happened to us a few games now. When the likes of Preston and Blackburn, etc., decide to rough us up a little bit and start the dark arts and a little bit of shithousing, we tend to fall into that trap, and we just stop being able to play. But yesterday we didn't play at any single point for a single minute that I can remember, and maybe apart from Steve, we were shocking to a man. We really were.
Yeah, I thought the referee against Portsmouth was particularly bad, but I mean, This guy, I think it's 15 years since his last game at Turf Moor. I'd be quite happy if it's another 15 years before I see the bugger back at BB11, but there we go. Justin, slightly different game perhaps to Plymouth on Tuesday night, where we perhaps scrapped a bit of a 1-0. Well, we did scrap a 1-0. Preston came with a bit of a plan, which was just to disrupt and that kind of block and three at the back with wing backs. But once again, we've not found a way to break teams down. And that's the onus. The onus is on us to kind of break these teams down, find a way through.
Yeah, well, we're the home team in this scenario, aren't we? And we're the team that's expected to do well. And I think on the face of it, those are the games. I think it was Esteve after the game who's in his post-match interview saying these are the kind of games that we've just got to get 3 points from. However we do it, we've just got to get 3 points. But it was a poor. I mean, I didn't enjoy a single second of that game, I have to say. I sat there with my head in my hands for most of it. But I agree with Woody. The referee was awful. I don't know how it's possible, but he did manage to ruin an already awful game somehow. I don't know how you.
That was a special thing about it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was so strange. I think we've seen it a few times. We know teams are going to sit there and defend a little bit. I think. To be fair to Preston, I think they did have a bit of a go, didn't they? They did come out a little bit, and they did. On the face of it, if we'd lost that game, I don't think we could have complained about it. It wouldn't have been unlucky to have lost that game. So I suppose we were lucky to come away with a point in the end. But the football authorities have got to tackle this thing of players throwing themselves to the ground and lying there until the game is stopped. The referee comes over, and because they know they've got this rule where if they get treatment on the pitch, they have to go off for 30 seconds. They all go, oh, no, I'll be all right. But the disruption's already happened by that point. Yeah. And the rule to get them off the pitch for 30 seconds is designed to discourage that sort of thing. So you're going to have to do something about that, because it's happening in almost every game we play now. The opposition do that. Slightest touch, they're down, they stay down. I thought the rule was the ref wasn't supposed to stop the game unless it was a head injury. should just let him lie there. Because I tell you what, they'd be up and off like Kaiser Soze and the usual suspects. The limp would disappear after about 5 steps, and then they'd be racing back to get back into the game, wouldn't they? So
I mean, like Jaden Pinkett-Smith, 4 career enders yesterday. Yeah.
I say, he pulled 3 hamstrings yesterday, didn't he?
Oh, poor lad.
Yeah, so I've got to do something about that. But that I agree. You know, we if you look at the table, all seems reasonably rosy, but and you've got to expect improvement. But that on Saturday was not good enough, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the kind of up the Clarets player ratings thread. I do love a good player ratings thread, and midweek we were perhaps like, you know what, it weren't great, but everyone was scoring 6s with a few 7s. This week it's kind of around the 4-5 mark, quite a few 3s. I mean, Chris, aside from the kind of players going down, which I agree with, the other one I hate is when referees won't send goalkeepers off for a second booking for time wasting. As soon as the keeper gets booked, he knows he ain't getting a second yellow because referees don't have the balls to do it. It's one of them games where, we've got a point. Yes, it's another clean sheet. But when players are getting scored between 3 and 5, it's clearly not working, is it, Chris? It's clearly not good enough and not what we'd expect.
No, it wasn't. But I don't pay much attention to marks of individual players because you just can't possibly study every individual player's 90 minutes as such. You can give a roundabout ballpark, but like I say, my if I dish out an 8 to someone will dish out a 4 to him. You get that discrepancy, don't you? People see different sides of players' games sometimes, but no, it was. I think when all's said and done, I think it was like Sky was saying yesterday, the average age of that back 5 is 21 years old. And they've picked up a third success. Admittedly, they've scored a penalty kick in three games. But on the other side, we've not conceded a goal with a 21-year-old average age, back 5. And they haven't looked, Esteves, like I say, he's played with a cigar on for those 3 games. I saw a tweet. I think it was Nathan Rogers, wasn't it, earlier, had the spot the difference between Esteve and a Rolls Royce, and I fully agree. He cruised through that. He's got that ability to, if there's a bit of danger, someone trying to run in behind, he just turns on the afterburners and just coolly mops up the situation. He plays when he can play. He's not afraid to get to mix it. I think it was Frockyar. He sort of went in, threw himself, won the ball in the air, but he left a bit on him with his shoulder as well, and then turns away. Said, "What for them?" When Frockyar was on the floor, and I like that. I like my centre halves to have a bit of nast and to be able to play. I like the hybrid. But I think even like Egan Riley wasn't he wasn't sort of troubled as such. Perez gives you that bit more. My main bugbear is, despite the passing, there's not enough tempo to the passing, not enough zip to the passing. But when we do go forward, when we find the wide players in Anthony and Koleosho, more often than not, they're receiving the ball with a standing start, and then you're expected to sort of try and outmaneuver you. More often than not, they're doubled up on as well. But the one time we played Anthony in behind, they create the one good opening. When he gets it on his right foot and sees his effort saved. If you to thread a ball in behind for Koleosho against Robbie Brady, he doesn't have a hope in hell. And you look at yes, there's slightly different personnel, but you look at the way the goals came about in the opening, the opening day at Luton, with Odebear, and the ball played in behind for Brownhill, etc. It's just frustrating to me that we're not. The sides are defending deep, and there's not that much space in behind. But we have to be able to sort of thread balls in for those two and make them, make them more of a threat in behind. I think we haven't got that guile, that bit of attacking nous from Cullen, Hannibal. Brownhill does get you a goal, but he isn't going to sort of thread through a killer pass. It's a frustrating mix at the moment, and I think it is going to take a fully fit Fleming, and it's going to take getting Ramsey into the equation. I still think Redmond's got a lot to offer. Trezor, fingers crossed, can come back and really just throw everything at us until January, and maybe then try and get your move. But just, we have enough attacking quality to dominate at this level, and we're not quite seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, Woody, I guess watching on the box over in the States, you probably share the same frustration there as Chris and me and Justin. Kind of, I guess we had his head in the hands at the exact same moments, kind of on Saturday. But it is that ball behind. It's not just beating a man, which is another bugbear of mine. I'd like to see Anthony, beat a man, because we know he can do it. He did it against Rovers, put that cross in for Lyle. But it's that kind of, I don't know. Are we too cautious? Is that the game plan? Is it kind of, is it players just not quite forming them relationships that we've talked about so often?
It seems to be that as the season's progressed, we've gone further and further into our shell.
Yeah.
It seems like we get a nosebleed anywhere near the 18-yard box. And when there doesn't seem to be anything on, whether that's runs not being made by the likes of Foster or anybody else, they check, they look up, the immediate sense is to go backwards and sideways again. And all of a sudden, because we aren't zipping it about, it suddenly becomes possession for the sake of possession. The opposition gets to, go into their two banks of four again, and that's it. There's absolutely no chance of us being able to break them down from that position. So it becomes totally worthless possession. And yeah, it's highly annoying, extremely ugly to watch, but it's like, where's that progressive, incisive, just a little bit of daring do more than anything else. And is it a change of personnel? Well, it's going to have to be at some point, but we're not going to get away with this for the vast majority of the season. We just aren't.
Yeah. And Justin, let's talk about that midfield. We were discussing this at football this morning, and it feels like at the minute the midfield's three players who all kind of do the same job without really having enough space to do the same job, doesn't it? And then one thing that I've kind of noticed this year is Cullen, who was so magnificent at just getting the ball out of his feet and moving it 2 years ago in the Championship. His default position is to kind of turn backwards towards the back four and give it them again. Would you, if you were to kind of pick a midfield three, if you are going to stick with a midfield three, you might say, I want to go with a midfield two. Of the four kind of five players, I guess there's four players really with Josh Laurent, Hannibal, Brownhill and Cullen, which two or three get the nod? Because at the minute, I don't think the three that we've got, which is Hannibal, Cullen and Brownhill, is getting the best out of any of that three.
No, yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because on the face of it, all three of those players seem worthy of a place at this level. I think, I thought Hannibal was great again, but he doesn't create very much, does he? He's brilliant in the press, winning the ball back, but quite often he's picking the ball up from Cullen with his back to goal and just knocking it back to him. There were a couple of times when he tried to turn his man and he got chopped down. And I think he's sort of got the potential to be that number 10, but he's not really creating that much at the moment. A lot of the stuff in the middle is coming into the forward line. Foster spends a lot of time backing into the defender, holding the ball up, knocking it off to someone, and then when the wide players beat their men, he's not there, is he? He's not getting into the box. He's not getting into, as we said before we started recording, he's not getting across his man at the front post, which is what Koleosho needs when he gets to the byline. He's got to pull it back to somebody. He's not going to stick, you're not going to stick one up to the back post from there. And I mean, I think the three that we've got are probably the ones that I'd choose, but I think I would swap. I think I'd have Hannibal playing a little bit deeper. He'd be the man to win the ball back in the press. Give it Cullen, who then finds somebody in a more progressive position, in a more progressive role, who can take players on. And I think, as we said before, Brownhill's a bit more of a goal threat when he's going to join in. He's going to get into the box, isn't he? In a way that Hannibal doesn't seem to. He doesn't seem to be getting in support of Foster. He just seems to be sort of loitering on the edge of the box and knocking these nice, tidy balls to keep possession. And I agree with Chris. I think we've got the talent to get past them. You know, there was that moment quite early on, wasn't there, where Lucas Perez knocked one inside the fullback and Anthony, you know, managed to that was our only shot on target. He got through and managed to get a shot on target. And I thought, well, because they were playing three at the back and just two sort of wing backs, weren't they? And it was kind of, we're going to get just have this all afternoon for fun, getting around the back of them on both sides. But I don't know, we just didn't seem to. That didn't seem to be the plan, did it? And I couldn't see what we were actually trying to do. It just seemed all a bit aimless, like it has been. But I don't know. I'm not convinced that the problem is personnel. I think it's attitude more than anything else. And I think it's just not having that positivity. I don't know why. I don't know whether they've been told that keeping the ball is more important than having a go. But 60% possession and one shot on target, that tells the story, doesn't it? We're just not we're not being positive enough. We're not having a go when we get into that final third. We're not finding that ball that finds the man who can get a shot off. And if we can do that, I think we're going to start tearing sides apart. But it's a mindset. I think it's just that we got to keep the ball, and the easiest way to do that is to knock it sideways or knock it backwards, and that's what we've been doing for the last 3 games.
And I think, to be fair, Anthony actually started off really rather well in the first half, including that little movie where he had the beating of his man on the left hand side, and I still don't know why he got switched. Why flanks got switched in the second half, because he wasn't nearly as effective on the right hand side. And Koleosho had a shocker.
Yeah, and Chris, it is that kind of. I agree with Justin. It feels perhaps less about personnel, because if you think of a forward line of, Foster, Anthony, Koleosho, or you bring Sarmiento in for one of them, and you've got Hannibal, that side with a positive mindset and an attacking attitude should really be putting teams as bad as Preston, Plymouth, and Oxford United to the sword, shouldn't they?
On paper, yes. I think we do Preston a disservice. Heckingbottom's a very wily manager. He knew exactly how to play that game, and the referee sort of assisted in that sense. But they knocked the ball around nicely, So there are a couple of nice little triangles, and they not only the most ridiculous offside decision you will ever see. I mean, the lad's shadows onside, isn't it? Never mind himself. Potts should score. Super chance. They've hit the woodwork. McCann has had a couple of decent sniffs at it, and they played. You've got Robbie Brady. I love Robbie Brady to pieces. Well, he was a fabulous player. When fit for Burnley, and but we've made the right wing back again. They both did a super job. They were able to not only double up on Anthony and Koleosho, but they also contributed going forward as well. And credit to them. You wanted to use that width to drag the three, the wider centre halves out of position and leave Foster isolated. And it rarely happened. It rarely happened. And they're combative, Preston, and they will be safe at this level again. I dare say, which I don't think we can say that of Portsmouth and Plymouth and maybe even Oxford, but it's they're better than that. But it's hugely disappointing to come away and you're seeing, like I say, I work about a mile away from Deepdale, and I work with a few North End fans, and I know what I'll hear tomorrow, that they'll feel they were the better side, and they feel they should have taken the points, and it stings a bit, that, because we are, as they used to sing, we are superior.
Absolutely. And Woody, just kind of looking, we've obviously got an international break now, and I guess we keep saying kind of, well, look, if he gets a week on the training ground with these players, then that'll kind of help and things like that. It perhaps does give us a kind of a chance to work on things. It does perhaps give us a chance to get players back fit. We know Aaron Ramsey's back on the grass. We know Mike Tresor's back in kind of training, kind of on the grass and things. It is a bit of an opportunity to try and kind of hothouse whatever system Scott Parker wants to play, isn't it? But I guess when we come back out, we're going to be back into a big raft of games again, and the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah, you're hoping we're going to be doing something over this international break. And to be fair, our last one, we came back and all guns are blazing. And I don't know where this style, that style of play, like that first half against, the first 30 minutes against Blackburn, some of the triangles we were playing early doors, I don't know where that's gone, because it's not necessarily the personnel who've disappeared. We haven't lost that many from the beginning of the season. It seemed like a very simple way of just dinking the ball around, and so I would have thought he'd probably try and get him back to doing something along those lines, but it just seems to be there's a lot of individuals, primarily thinking of Koleosho, just trying to do that schoolyard thing that I think we mentioned a couple of pods ago, where people are just trying to get on the ball and do something instead of trying to actually play football. So I sincerely, I expect he'll sort it out, and I don't see why we shouldn't be able to sort it out. But it's been going from bad to worse rather than good to better.
Yeah. And Scott Parker seems to say all the right stuff. I mean, we were in the kind of pod on Friday, we were, talking about what a good job he'd done and how he'd handled the situation. And he's, you're not blinded by all this kind of, COD psychology bullshit that we've had from previous managers or a previous manager. But, he admits openly, look, we looked a bit lethargic, or look, there's work still to be done. There's many, many areas we need to improve in. So the attitude from the manager seems to be, look, we're not playing the way I want us to play. That's got to be quite heartening for Burnley fans to hear. And I mean, some managers are look, it's a point against a decent side, bank it, we're third in the league, stop you injured. But he's kind of gone, you know what, we still have areas to improve, don't we?
Yeah, and I think that's true as well. And it's not just him, it's the players in it as well. Estev was disappointed. After the game, we're disappointed we haven't got the 3 points. Scott Parker says, we're disappointed we haven't got the 3 points. We haven't played well. We want to be playing, doing the, fast attacking football and creating lots of chances and scoring lots of goals. That's what everybody wants, isn't it? So, I'm not, it's not for want of trying, is it? I'm sure it's not for want of trying. I couldn't pick any players out who didn't seem to give 100% on Saturday. They were all, working the socks off. Something's just not clicking, is it? And that's Scott Parker's job to find out what that is and get those pieces in place. But the thing that worries me a little bit is that's been 3 games in a row now where we've produced fairly similar performances, both at home and away. And he's tinkered a little bit with the lineup, not a lot. But I think that I haven't detected any real shift in that psyche that we've got. I haven't seen them playing a bit more progressive. It just seems to have been, 3 games, of doing exactly the same thing and expecting something different to happen on the pitch. So hopefully this little break that we've got now will allow them to reassess a little bit and see what they can improve on. They need to make sure that players stick to their positions, don't they? They need to make sure that Koleosho is not drifting all over the place. He's got to be standing on that on the line and picking the ball up there and running his man. Foster's got to stay up front. He can't, he's not. There's no point in him coming deep and knocking it off to the wide players, and then he's not in the box when the ball comes in. It's little details like that, isn't it? And it's just, I don't think it's a massive shift in psychology they need. It's just a little bit more progressive, just taking a few more risks. We've got, as Chris pointed out, we've got a young back line. That'll change a little bit when Roberts comes back into it. But we've got a defensive unit there that's well capable of holding its own against anybody. So we can afford to take a bit more risks up front. I think, So yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think Foster does. Scott Parker doesn't want them to play the way that they play, and that's not the plan. He hasn't come out and said, well, we did okay there. He's disappointed. He's not happy with it. So we can only hope, looking forward, that things will evolve as the games go on. But yeah, I fully accept. You look at the table and on paper it looks pretty good. We're not top though, which is what we would have been if we scored a goal on Saturday. So you've always got to bear that in mind, I think.
Yeah, you definitely do. And Chris, just what's your kind of early kind of thoughts on the quality of the Championship? I mean, Sunderland, I know they've lost 2, but perhaps haven't got as many draws or things like that. So, they've kind of been quite consistent. Sheffield United, despite the points deduction, coming to the fore. But other teams, West Brom, they've been on a bit of a bad run. Blackburn Rovers lost the last couple. It really is anyone's for the taking, isn't it? If you can just get a bit of consistency and just start stringing some results together, we could, if we had that minor shift in psychology, start to kind of dominate like we did a couple of years ago.
I think it's quite telling that you're seeing now, Sunderland top, Sheffield, Burnley, Leeds, West Brom in the mix. It's quite telling, I think, that the sort of. I say I'm not by no means labelling Burnley a big hitter, but in modern parlance of the Championship, we have been too good for it, not quite good enough at staying in the Premier League at the last couple of attempts. But in Championship terms now, Burnley are big hitters, I suppose. But I think the rest of the league, I don't think the quality of footballer is there. I think there's very good coaches who are very good at organising the teams and making life difficult. And but I think you're starting to see the wheat from the chaff now a bit. And I think the sort of top 6 or so will. I don't know what order it'll finish up in, but I think the top 6 will pretty much be the top 6, and they'll battle it out between themselves. But I think now again you're looking at like yesterday again. Ipswich have got walloped at West Ham. Southampton by all means played well, but got beat as you'd expect at Arsenal, and Palace have got turned. I think the gulf seems to have kicked on again in the Premier League. And you're looking at, if you were to say to me, 2 years ago we got promoted, romped the league and weren't good enough. If this team gets promoted, I think as we were saying the other night, I fear for this. Even with investment, it would have to be ridiculous levels of investment, I think, to give yourself an opportunity, and therein lies the difference. I think it's you do wonder, don't you? You do wonder what everyone wants to be in the promised land, and it's we spoke about it. It's not pleasant when you're getting beat every week, but you want to be going to you want to be watching Burnley compete against Manchester United and Arsenal, Liverpool and Chelsea, and you don't want to be going to Oxford and Port. It might be very 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 good away days for supporters. You can go and have a few beers and a bit of fun and games, and you probably even win the game as well. But ultimately, we want to be the pride that installs in the town and the club and everything else, to be competing at that level. It's unmatched, and it's looking a tougher task to sort of establish yourself back there if they do get back there.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely. Let's leave it there, chaps. Let's park the Preston North End draw. We have got a bit of a break with the international break. We'll probably have a bit of a break as well. We might see if we can get a guest on or something like that over the international break. But keep an eye on our social media at BO Podcast on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Enjoy your week and up the Clarets.